Hey yo, it's time for the playoffs, we the top of the West. We got the home field advantage, time to play at our best. I'm out at Carson, California, kill a piece on the set. Like Joe Belich, the pistolero, put a hole in the net. Yo got bonito when I dribble like I'm Gabriel Peck. Call me Yamane, got defenders out here breaking their neck. And put a curler past the keeper like I'm Pooch on the left. I'm bringing the skill like paint seal, counter attack. I'll put your sheet on next to Garces to defend in the back. Edwin Cerillo, que golazo, give him props on the track. I got a vision like I'm Royce when he's giving a pass. Marky Delgado is my boy, helping out where he can. Put up a typo at the park, show the love that we have. Diego Fagundes on the left when we get to the half. Let's make some changes, let Gaston create a play and retract. When in the game we have possession, but we shouldn't relax. Mauricio Cuevas now and never, time to bring up the stats. We gotta show them what we're made of, take a look at the past. The champion's back, the race to save the price that we have. We ain't stopping till we have another cup in our hand. What? Let's go Galaxy, let's go Galaxy, yeah. Vamos Galaxy, let's go Galaxy, let's go Galaxy, yeah. Vamos Galaxy, la cuna galaxiana, es la voz de LA.
Hello, hola, and buenas, and welcome back to another episode of La Cuna Galaxiana. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Today, we're going to be looking at the end of the first round of the playoffs with special guest MLSMoves. They'll be here to help us wade through a wacky round one, which saw an incredible Cinderella story continue and multiple favorites fall in a pretty messy way. He'll help us look ahead to all the matchups and conference semifinals, including who could lift MLS Cup this year and if the Galaxy have learned any lessons from the teams that got eliminated. Before we go any further, let me go ahead and introduce myself. I'm one of your co-hosts for the evening, Rob Haloni. You can find my written work at Extra Time Talk, and you can find me online at El Escudero de LA. And of course, right next to me, as always, we have El Yerno Guapo y El Gitano Perdido. Of course, I'm speaking about the one and only Ananda Kirana. Papá, ¿cómo te sientes?
Muy bien, papá, muy bien. Aparte de que estamos 10 días más hasta que veremos el Galaxy and soccer just in general. So I guess I have to deal with this interlull, right? I'm not a big fan of the international breaks, especially at this time of year and at least in the MLS schedule. In the Premier League side, though, I am welcoming it because my team needs this international break, but less of that and more of this. But no, less of these breaks, man. We've talked about it the last couple episodes. This is getting ridiculous now, but it does provide us some time to talk to knowledgeable folks like MLS, like Will, man. You know what? I'm actually excited about today, man, because you know, I obviously we live in our own little cocoon, our own little bubble of LA Galaxy. And this guy knows MLS up and down, and there's just a lot of things going on. There's just a lot going on right now in the league. A lot of very interesting storylines that we'll get to later today. So this is a nice little change of pace for the show. It kind of gets us out of our comfort zone a little bit with the Galaxy and go, broader MLS, right, which is really important. I think, especially, I mean, we gotta know who our opponent is, right? So know your enemy, of course. And yeah, this should be a fun one, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it as well. Funnily enough, you and I have been Will. Oh, you got me, champ. That's a shot for you, by the way. We've been talking about having Will on for a cool minute. I don't know if he's listening backstage, but yeah, it's true. We talk about you, Will. We've been trying to have you on, we didn't really know when the appropriate time was. And so for all of you guys that might have heard of the announcement, our special guest of the evening was supposed to be Jalen Neal. Jalen had something going on. I mean, he's probably off being really, really, really awesome somewhere. So MLS Will was nice enough to go ahead and roll with the schedule change and hook us up with all the knowledge that he has. And of course, one of the things that we do here on the show is we try really, really hard to bring you guests that we feel like know ball or knowledgeable about the league and that you guys are going to enjoy. And so shout out to Andrew Hernandez, Nuestra Fútbol.
Galaxia Futbolera.
There we go. mi mocha no me la sacaba, right? But you know, so I spoke to Andrew and he's like, yeah, man, MLS moves, it's the business, man. Go ahead and have him on. And so you know, any friend of Andrew's friend of mine and friend of Ananda's, so we're lucky to have him tonight. But before we go any further and before we have him on, I know that Anandita, you have some housekeeping to go through, and apparently chat is letting us know that Dayon's doing a stream right now. Someone let him know. Jump on La Cuna Galaxiana. We're here.
Sheesh.
Let him know to be in chat. We'll show him a lot of love. Steven Moss says, I'm watching Galaxiana and Dayon streaming Counter-Strike at the same time. And then Anthony Martinez says, a cool stream, and Dayon said the break during playoffs is dumb and he hates it. I agree. I think pretty much every player that has sounded off about that has said that it's pretty dumb. Of course, adding an international break in there as well does not help, but it is what it is. We're getting closer. We're 10 days away, and man, it's so long. But anyway, shoutouts.
Yeah. Well, first housekeeping. Exactly. Well, of course, you guys can always follow me, block me, or stalk me at Ananda Galaxiana. Of course, our handles are right there, guys, for you to go ahead and do that. And of course, you know, if you're coming back to the stream and hanging out with us, we didn't want to leave you guys hanging. I know there's really, like, at least for the Galaxy, there's nothing going on at the moment. Of course, we're still in this interlull, we're in this ridiculous break, but we didn't want to leave you guys hanging. So we love being with you, chat, and just want to give you some good content. Just get your Galaxy fix in there, get, you know, with a little MLS playoffs spice. And yeah, we're happy to be with you guys. But of course, if you want to support the channel, one of the best ways is going to be to hit that subscribe button if you like what you're listening to, and hit those like button, guys. That's one of the best ways.
I want to pause you right there, because really, like, just close your eyes with me for a second. And it really is as simple as, like, click the button. And you're showing us love, and thank you for it. We love you guys.
Yep, it's really that simple, guys. So, but just before you do it, just you know, when you get in the chat, just go ahead and do that for us. Or if you're listening on playback, if you're just listening to this, just go ahead and hit it. It takes 2 seconds, and like I said, it really helps us out. And of course, the other way you can help us out is, you know, Rob and I have our little horchata funds going on there, so you guys can always you know, help out this show at buymecoffee.com/La Cuna Galaxiana if you like what you're listening to. And yeah, that's gonna be one of the and Rob's got the little pegatina con mucho amor. Yeah, by the way, guys, at the next game, definitely, if you see us, flag us down. Of course, we will have those stickers
get one
ready for you, and possibly in the next blue, white, and gold, which got announced today, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Oh, we'll get there. Oh,
yeah,
we will.
And of course, como siempre, Roberto, antes de olvidarme, buenos días, tardes o noches, y bienvenidos a otro capítulo de La Cuna Galaxiana. Before we get into the shoutouts, man, I'll just do one really quick for you, because I wanted to blast this for sure, and just wanted to say thank you. But of course, as you guys know, Alex and I just released our latest Los Gatácticos series. We called it Peak Vanny Ball. I mean, just want to thank you guys for tuning in. We've gotten a lot of good feedback, both, you know, in person, online. Alex and I really enjoy doing these, guys. So hopefully through that video, just not to spoil it if you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and check that out. We basically break down, well, we give you a little primer on what is Vanny Ball. I think there's a lot of still misconceptions around what it is. And of course, we take, you know, we go to the film room. We kind of explore, really, Rob, not even just in the playoffs, even earlier than the playoffs, just so how Vanny Ball has evolved over time. And it's really, really cool to see. And man, we are at peak Vanny Ball, I would say. And to know why, go ahead and check out the latest episode I did with Alex, man. It's really, really good stuff.
Hint, it is the fierce fit that Greg has on in this picture. The scarf is back, the swag. So anyway, no, but you guys check this out. You know, you guys know that El Profe Alex Ruiz, he knows ball, man. And we know that the players be looking at the sweets too. So anyway,
gracias, Raúl.
Hey, right on. Thank you, Ro, for supporting Los Gatácticos, who put a lot of love into those episodes. And check out the back catalog as well, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. You know, there's tactics from El Tráfico as well. So that might be the potential Western Conference final coming up, guys. So that is maybe a good one to go back and check out in the back catalog. Of course, in the back catalog, you know, we've been lucky enough to sit with Tommy Bogert this year, Sophie Nicolau, C. Miles, and of course, LA Galaxy GM Will Kuhn. So check out that back catalog as well. And I guess so. We'll go ahead and get into these announcements. The first one, Ananda, hits close to home. Marco Angulo, rest in peace. He passed after a long battle with his health after he was in a fatal car accident in which one of his former teammates also passed. This happened yesterday, 11/13. And he was here in MLS and at FC Cincinnati. So, I know that a lot of these players in the league played against him. Maybe didn't have a personal relationship with him, but knew of him and played against him. So, it's not only hitting close to home, in MLS, but as well because it's Ecuadorian. Everyone knows I'm Ecuadorian. So, man, it's good young player and it's unfortunate. Rest in peace. And keeping on that same tip, we can't do anything, in that instance, everything is said and done there, but one of your own G's needs help now. Angel City Brigade has put out the call for a fellow G, Ricardo Valbuena. Ricardo has announced that he has stage 4 chronic kidney disease. You can help him by sharing his story to your family and friends. He's on the hunt for a kidney, guys, so you can increase the number of people who hear his story and can consider a kidney donation. If anybody does hear of his story and is considering, you can go ahead and get screened to become an official kidney donor with the NKR. You can go ahead and check out his story and potentially get screened at nkr.org/BWB746. This is where the LA Galaxy community comes out and supports their own guys. So, fuerza, ánimo y bendiciones para tu familia, Ricardo. Estamos aquí con vos. Good luck to Julian Araujo as well, the former G defender and Bournemouth current defender. He's out indefinitely after a surgical procedure to repair his left hamstring. There's no real timetable at the moment for his return, but he had a successful surgery and he looks in good spirits. So good luck to Julian, the pride of Lompoc, man. Que se recupere rápido, man, porque qué jugador, man. So good luck to Julian as well. Good luck to Clutch Chris, one of the listeners of the show here, in his final tomorrow. Saw that he put that he's in a final. I don't know if you noticed, Ananda, but we got B-Nags in that team photo as well.
Yeah, some familiar faces.
Everybody looking all saucy and spicy there with their retrograde kids. I love it. Well done. Good luck to you guys tomorrow in your final. The U.S. men's national team got a result today in the first leg of the Nations League against Jamaica here. 1-0 win over Jamaica. Ricardo El Tren Pepe scored the only goal off a Matt Turner assist. Turner, of course, saved a penalty as well. They will face Jamaica again on Monday, November 18th. We have
less said about this game the better, man. That pitch was nasty. Not a fun watch, but you just need the points and move on.
Or the
win, I guess. Not the points, the win.
Pragmatic, just get the win by any means necessary, even if it's ugly. Saying with the national team setup, a couple of G's got called up, a couple of U15s got called up to the national team. Vinny Garcia and Ikena Chidebe have been named to the U15 training camp in Georgia. Good luck to them. We always talk about it from the top to the bottom. It's good to have a culture in which these players are playing the right way and representing the colors. So good luck to them. A story we brought you before, Bruce Arena was officially unveiled in San Jose. Former Galaxy head coach is now officially the sporting director and head coach for the Earthquakes, officially the worst team in MLS last year. But that's why they brought in the winningest coach in MLS, who, it's going to be weird, but he's now officially a rival, Ananda.
So weird.
Yeah, it does look weird. But Bruce says, John Fisher in the front office has already assured me that they're dedicating resources to help improve the club. My meetings with Mr. Fisher strongly indicate that he is going to support the club. We don't expect to be Inter Miami, believe me, but we're going to move our club up the ladder to position ourselves to be much more competitive. I believe there's a great commitment on part of the owner as well as our front office. well, good luck to Bruce, just not against the Galaxy. Steven Moreira, Columbus defender, wins Defender of the Year. He helped set the club record in Columbus for fewest goals conceded in the season in 2024. He had 123 recoveries, 16 fouls won, and he is largely credited for being an attacking threat as well. One of the things that I found interesting, Ananda, no yellow or reds for him on the season.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I mean, one of the things we always talk about on this pod is the one of the best things to be is for your team is available, and he was available all season. Columbus, the reigning champions, fell short in the first round. We'll get to that a little bit later with Will from MLSMoves.
Yep.
But sure will with Will. But congratulations to
puns
Steven
keep going
Moreira.
on in this show.
Oh yeah, man, we're getting real dad jokes with it tonight, y'all. Shout out to H. Dottie who put out his merch page. Ananda, you know I've been loving that Selena t-shirt, bro.
It's fire.
I mean, Amor Prohibido for sure. Stickermule.com/H. is where you're going to find this fire. Go ahead and support him. Always putting out some real good stickers and shirts. Galaxy Outlaws as well has announced that they're putting their 2024 hoodies for pre-sale. Link in their social bios. If you place an order before 11/17, that'll be ready for you to pick up on 11/24 tailgate. And speaking of getting together and fire merch, just like we've been talking about. The next Blue, White, and Gold pop-up is Sunday, December 15th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Absolution Brewing. Of course, as we get the list of vendors, we'll go ahead and let you guys know who's going to be at that. I'm excited. I always have a great time at the Blue, White, and Gold pop-up. I always get in trouble with my wife for spending too much money. And then I go home happy. So it's a great time. We're on merch, and we're going to stay on merch, Ananda. There was an official LA Galaxy away kit for next year jersey leak by Footy Leaks. They're usually the guys who
pretty on top of it, yeah.
So they've shown us the potential LA Galaxy away kit for next year. It's supposed to give you that evocative vibe of the LA skyline. What Angel City FC, the color they call this is so rosa. But I see really more like purple and gold in this jersey. So it really just reminds me of a Lakers jersey.
I can't get past that either. Yeah, chat. What do you think about?
I've heard
mixed feelings, by the way, on this. So chat, go ahead and sound off. Are you gonna buy this kit or not? Because I'm with you, man. I cannot get past the Lakers thing. Of course, if you're a Clippers fan, that's then that's not null and void, I guess. But yeah, just interesting. Marvin says it's got Orlando colors vibe. Yeah, I just can't get past the Lakers thing, the purple and gold thing. But it is cool. It's one of those things though, where because when I saw the green kit that I have, behind me, you guys will see it later. The what is it called? The City of LA kit, I guess. Didn't love it at first, and then I saw it on body, and I was like, ooh, this looks good. And then I saw it on me, I was like, yes, this is for me. So it's kind of one of those things. I have to see it in person. I mean, no, but you know what it is? It's like one of those things where it's like certain colors just look good on you and certain colors just look nasty. It's just one of those things, man. So I gotta see.
I don't have a problem, Ananda. Anyway, we'll keep it going. We'll bring you more updates on this one as we get them, guys. We brought you this one as well. The Galaxy Fan Council is accepting applications for the 2025 year until November 18th. There's 15 spots open, so go ahead and apply. You have a chance on November 18th, and that'll be announced on November 25th via LA Galaxy socials. And finally, wrapping up here with the announcements here.
My favorite one.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the gesture in question, but John McCarthy was fined by MLS disciplinary committee for an undisclosed amount for a rude gesture that he made after LA Galaxy's victory over the Colorado Rapids in game 2.
I approve, John. I approve.
I'm not
those goalkeepers, man.
This is a family show, so I'm gonna keep it PG. But if you guys saw it, it was funny, I guess. But anyway, I feel wrong saying it's funny because I could criticize Dibu for gestures like that, and then John McCarthy does, but I did laugh, so I feel kind of like a hypocrite. But anyway,
I thought it was hilarious. These goalkeepers, man, God bless them.
God bless the goalkeepers, and you know what? God bless the playoffs, man, because they've been interesting. Stuff has happened that we didn't think was going to happen, and I mean, we're fortunate enough today to have on someone that covers the league as a generalist, right? So I'm interested to get his opinions on what happened in this first round. He's been covering MLS in a big way for a minute now, and he's become one of the go-to people for U.S. men's national team and MLS news. Please welcome Will, aka MLS Moves, to the show. ¿Cómo estás, papá?
Hey, appreciate you guys for having me on. Excited to talk some Major League Soccer and talk about your club, LA Galaxy, because they're having a special season, and I feel pretty good about their chances this year of lifting the cup once again.
Oh, we'll talk about that. We'll definitely get into that later. Yeah.
Well, Will, since you know this is your first time on, hopefully the first of many. You know, tell me about you. I'm gonna ask you some you questions if that's okay.
Okay.
So you know, I know that you're pretty present on socials covering soccer here in the U.S. How did you get started? Did you get started covering soccer in general? You know, like the European game, and then kind of scaled it back to kind of like focus on MLS and the U.S. men's national team, or was that your focus from day one? Was that what called you?
So I was a typical American. My two loves have always been, as you can see, the Titans right there. And I'm a huge Lakers fan. Kobe
There
Bryant's
we go.
All
There
time.
we go.
See the two Kobe posters. I'm 81 points, and then just a
There
normal
we go.
Kobe poster. So RIP GOAT. I was just a typical sports fan, like in football and basketball. And then I started playing FIFA with my buddies in high school, and I just kind of like started to gain some love for it. And I'm like, well, that's cool. I'm like, well, how's our league? Like, what does the domestic league look like? You know, because I'm seeing all these other, you know, Premier League, learning all these different leagues. And everybody was kind of talking badly about Major League Soccer. And then obviously I knew Landon Donovan didn't play in Europe, and just started doing a little digging and stuff, and kind of wanted to do what I could do to make our league better. So 8 years ago, I decided to start an account up and try to help promote the game and do my part, and maybe making other people fall in love with it like I have.
Hey, bud, 8 years. That's a long time. You've been in the trenches, man. I mean, I've been covering the Galaxy for Last Word now for about 4 years, and you know, asking on, sometimes I'm like, whoo, this was a week, right? So I mean, 8 years is a long time. You're almost on a decade. Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
What do you think's been the biggest challenge for you in covering the league in these 8 years? And you know, and has it changed? Has like the challenge changed as MLS itself has changed?
The two most frustrating parts, one is by the league, because I think a lot of us would agree that the league has so much potential, and sometimes I feel like they don't see the big picture of what they could be. So it's more of them kind of slow walking it and maybe being behind where we think they should be. That's hard because I do believe this league has a lot of potential, and it's got more potential now than it, you know, you can see it a little bit more clearly than maybe you could a decade ago. It's evolved so much. Number two is getting some people, you know, there's a lot of soccer fans in this country, but there's a lot of people that maybe are stubborn, or they call them Euro snobs, or, you know, whatever it may be, trying to convince those people why they should watch this league, why they should take an interest. Because if they did, it would help the game grow in this country, and ultimately help the league grow and reach its potential. I would say those are the two biggest things. Definitely the league's slow walking, and then trying to get that casual person who loves soccer to give MLS a chance.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the casual person, because you put out a tweet the other day that we'll get to a little bit later, that actually, you know, I'm kind of in favor for. I don't know how Ananda feels about it, but we'll get there. You'll be like, this is the receipt he's talking about. But speaking of you tweeting and stuff like that, before we go any further, I mean, I'm sure it's just as easy as what you're displaying there at MLS Moves, but where else can the folk find you?
Yeah, so I'm on X, obviously. I have my own YouTube channel where I post all kinds of MLS content, USMNT stuff a little bit, not as much, but I dabble in that a little bit because I'm a fan of the USMNT. But you can follow me on YouTube or subscribe to me at MLS Moves. And then I also have an Instagram where I'm somewhat active on, I guess, not as active as Twitter or /X. But those are the three platforms I'm on.
Righteous, man. And, you know, I don't know if you heard backstage, but I did reach out to a mutual of ours, Andrew Hernandez, and I was like, hey, what do you think of Will? And he talked you up, and I was like, righteous, we need to have him on then. But I asked him if you were a Galaxy fan, and you publicly declared it as well that you're more of a neutral, right? Because you cover the league wide, right? So you're kind of like I am, up in the press box, officially neutral. Ananda's more wearing the colors here on this pod. But I also know that you potentially have a soft spot for the Galaxy, right? So what is it about the Galaxy that might have turned your eye, or that gave you that soft spot for the blue, white, and gold?
Well, I'll say this. I have a lot of friends in both communities of LAFC and LA Galaxy. Half of them say I hate their club. Half of them say I love their club. They blame me for being a fan of, like LAFC fans, I love LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy fans, I love LAFC. I like them equally, right? I would say that if I had to put a soft spot, it's more of their historic presence they have, right? They're the most successful team in the league history. They've been down for a decade now with a few blips of success. Obviously, the Zlatan Ibrahimovic 2 years was very entertaining. And it's sad that they weren't able to really make anything out of that. I really think, could you imagine if Ibrahimovic was playing up top with this team right now from 2018, 2019, how lethal that would be? Now, obviously, it'd be nasty. Yeah. I mean, and I'm a fan of Joveljic. I love Joveljic. I think he's a great player. But if we had Ibrahimovic with Peck and Paintsel and Puig, it'd be crazy to see what happens. But I just want to see, not necessarily, I'm not rooting for anyone to win MLS Cup, but I want to see our great teams be competitive again, compete. It's been sad to see them down for so long because of, like I said, their history with the league and LAFC succeeding. I think it's better for the league when both teams are playing well. I compare it to Man City and Manchester United. The LA Galaxy are the Manchester United, and LAFC are the Man City. It'd be nice to see them, return to relevance and try to win a cup again.
No, definitely. When both teams are competitive, it's best.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, even because I'm an Arsenal fan, Will. So even that rivalry in itself as well, just to see. I mean, but definitely you're right. Just to see both teams competitive again, and it's interesting because recently, so we had Will Kuntz on, and he said that this team was the first of five, and he wants to be the first of five more. And you've seen this team from afar as a neutral, but kind of going back to your earlier sentiment, I mean. You said that maybe there is something special brewing this year. I guess just before we get to that, like, are you surprised at all by the success this year? Or when you saw those two winger signings, you're like, oh, wait, there's something really interesting bubbling here in LA.
Well, I like to argue with people a little bit about, they say spending doesn't equal winning in Major League Soccer, but I think we're seeing that it does equal winning because the Galaxy spent more money than any other team this offseason, and Peck and Paintsel. I want to say it's close to like $20 million combined somewhere, maybe give or take $1 million. And you're seeing it pay off. Paintsel, I was a little higher on Paintsel coming into this season because he was really good in Belgium. And he is good. I'm not discrediting or saying he's been bad this year, but Peck has been the man. Like, Peck has been better than I could have thought. And it's actually kind of like maybe a bad thing for the Galaxy because he's playing so well. It kind of makes you wonder how much longer he'll be here. Yeah. But that's kind of what Will Kuntz said, right? That's what he told ownership. He said, look, I know it's a lot of money, but we're going to take these players we buy, flip them, and then replace them. Like, that's kind of like the thing. We won't really need any extra money because we'll sell them and we'll use that money to replace them. But it's been beautiful to see them kind of evolve, right? The Chris Klein method wasn't working. It was kind of dated. And honestly, I think the magic that they had in all those years was because Robbie Keane was insane and Bruce Arena is the GOAT, right? Chris Klein was terrible at making executive decisions for this team. And as soon as he's gone, Will Kuntz comes in here, the chef, right? And he's rebuilt this thing, and it's like a well-oiled machine. They look great. So it's good to see the best or the most historic team in the league actually be run like a modern Major League Soccer team. It's good for the league. Like, I really believe that could be something that's held the league back, is having your best team down for so long.
Oh no, absolutely. And it's interesting that you note that because, the criticism was that that front office was operating in basically like MLS 1.0, right? Whereas arguably MLS is on 4.0 at the moment, you know. So it's nice to see that Will's been able to come in with this knowledge of like the mechanisms on spending and stuff like that, and then being able to put the resources behind that, but intelligently. You know, you said earlier, you know, that you had an argument that you know, spending doesn't equal success. It's really smart spending that equals success. I mean, because the Galaxy had spent before on Douglas Costa, Chicharito Hernandez, but as we saw last year, both those players weren't available. So again, it's smart spending, and I think that Will Kuntz went out and actually did that. And as a product, you know, people sit there and talk about whose team is this now? Is it Ricky Puig's? Is it Gabriel Peggy's? Joseph Paintsel can go off and have his day, and then you're discounting two guys like you know, Fagundes and Marco Reus that are bench players at the moment and would be starters on any other team.
Well, I was also going to say too, real quick. I think the old regime was trying to sell jerseys more than like that's
Absolutely.
what they were trying to bring. They were just trying to bring a big name and try to get people to buy a kit and go see, you know, go watch Chicharito in person, regardless if they win or lose. This team is trying to win. You don't have to have a big name anymore to get people interested. You just have to produce on the pitch. No one knew who Paintsel or Peck, or I would be willing to bet most people didn't even know who Ricky Puig really was. He was just a bench guy at Barcelona 3 years ago. But they made their household names with the Galaxy. And just from what I've seen, I haven't seen this much interest in the Galaxy in years. Like, I feel like everybody is completely dialed in and they're excited, and they really like the energy is at least like a 7 or 8 year high from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In the stadium, I can attest to that for sure. Rob, go ahead. Yeah. Even you in the press box.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was going to say it's interesting because I'll go out to training, Will, and you know, years past that I would feel like this tension before big matches, you know. And the other day I was out there before Colorado, and they just felt so loose, like butter, just like they knew, man, like they knew, like, hey, this is us, this is ours, you know. And it's interesting to see the lift in culture and atmosphere across the stadium. What a difference a year makes, man. And you're right, something special is brewing, and if it does pop off, it'll be in large part because something that we say all the time on the show. The culture shift has started from the top to the bottom, from the academy all the way up to the top, to the front office. I mean, it's palpable. You can feel it.
Yeah, because the fish rots from the head down. And we had Christian Miles on recently, and that's an old Russian saying, I guess. But yeah, I mean, we know what the variable is between this year and last year. But you know, Will, seeing all this success, I guess now looking ahead into the playoffs, I mean, do you think this is the year that the Sixers won? Like, how good do you feel if you had to put like a percentage on it on the Galaxy?
If you were a betting man.
If you were a betting man.
Well, so I did a prediction video a couple weeks ago. I had the Galaxy playing Inter Miami, and obviously not just my bracket, but probably everybody's bracket's completely ruined with Miami being out this early. I don't think anybody saw that happening. But with Miami being out, I feel really good about their chances. I think their biggest hurdle is going to be the LAFC, just because it's a rivalry game. It's going to have to be played at BMO Stadium, which I was really disappointed in how the Galaxy couldn't close that game out against the Dynamo. They had it in their hands. They would have been the first seed. And as you guys know, they haven't lost a game at home this year. I mean, it seemed like it was just the stars were aligning for them, and they just collapsed. And it hurt. I guess it hurt even more for you guys because it was Daniel Steres that scored that goal against you.
And he celebrated it big time as well.
Yeah, exactly. So just twisting the dagger, right? But I still feel pretty good about their chances because the LAFC have been struggling a little bit. They've kind of, I don't know how many of the Vancouver Whitecaps games you watched between them, but they didn't look very good. And their star striker, Giroud, he hasn't been able to find the back of the net consistently. They benched him. They had Matty Bogusz playing up top. So, and the Galaxy, in my opinion, it probably slightly a little less, not as good as Inter Miami in attack, but very, very close. So now that Miami's out, LA Galaxy have the best attack in the league, and I don't think it's really close. They're the most well-rounded attack. And I think that's what's probably going to put them over the edge. Now, their defense kind of concerns me a little bit still, just like Miami. It's crazy how comparable these teams were. Bad defenses, great attacks. But they did something that Inter Miami didn't do, which I'm sure we'll talk about later because you want to talk about other teams in the league. They were able to absolutely rout the Rapids 9-1. I mean, it was embarrassing. So they took care of business. They're the only team in the playoffs so far that completely dominated their opponent in 2 matches. The only team.
Yeah, like you said, took care of business. It's interesting that you said that because there was a lot of surprises on the eastern side of the bracket, right? But is there an Eastern Conference equivalent to the LA Galaxy at the moment? Just a team that came out and you think that took care of business?
Not really, honestly. Even when you think about the games that were sweeps, right? Win both the games and not going to a third, there weren't that decisive wins. I think the East is really wounded right now, to be honest with you. I do think it's probably going to be a New York team that comes out of the East and make it to the MLS Cup final, which plays into the Western. Whoever makes to the MLS Cup from the Western Conference, they're the favorite. I think whoever makes of the Western Conference is going to win MLS Cup. But the Eastern Conference is so wounded. I mean, it's crazy. The Western Conference kind of played out how we thought it was going to play out, and the Eastern Conference is like just an alternate universe. Like the craziest stuff has happened. I wouldn't say that. I would say that like Miami specifically, right? The only reason they lost is because of the Brad Guzan heroics. Like he played the best 3 games I've ever seen him play. Just incredible. I actually want him to be called into the national team because of how well he's been playing.
Fair.
But
I can see that.
Yeah,
Fair.
I mean, Matt Turner's not, I think Matt Turner is not locked at the position. I just think I'm kind of not sold on him, honestly. I think Guzan is playing in good form. He's 40, but he doesn't play like he's 40. He's still athletic, and you can kind of see he still has like a bounce in his step. And obviously he's a smart player. But I think that that's I think, like I said earlier, the Galaxy, it just feels like the stars are aligning for him, guys. It feels like that it's in the wind is behind their sail. And LAFC, this is the worst LAFC team in the last 3 years, in my opinion. This is the worst one of the last 3 years. And I think I like them or their odds to beat them in the Western Conference final. But obviously, they got to take care of business before they get there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You went on a Brad Guzan, a little bit of a love fest, and I'm about it because I love it when our guests set up my segues so naturally. So thank you for that, Will. We play something here on Lacuna Galaxiana called Word Association, where I throw out a word at you, and you have to tell me the first thing that pops into your head. So it's got to be immediate. Like, if I say stove, you say hot, but it's got to be quick. And you have one hard pass, and yeah. We're going to be playing playoff edition. Usually we're playing in the Galaxy sphere, but we're playing playoff edition today. So your first one, since you were on Brad Guzan, that's it. Brad Guzan.
Warrior.
And it's true. Going strong at 40. Number 2, Leo Messi.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
No one can argue with that. And his teammate, another 20-plus goal scorer, Luis Suarez.
Missing.
Another person that's missing from these playoffs already, Gucho.
I'm gonna do a pass on that one. No word came up for me on him. Honestly, I honestly forgot about the crew. Forgetful. I'll use that. Forgetful.
Forgetful.
Yeah.
Went out with the whimper, and people are like, "Oh, they who?" But some guy that we're going to be talking about in a moment as well, because just craziness. Lucho Acosta.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. The situation is a little wacky. Next one, Ricky Puig.
MVP.
Ooh.
Spicy.
From your lips to the Lord's ears, sir, or or Don Garber's ears, I guess. His potential Western Conference final opponent, Denny Boanga.
Denny Boanga. I'm gonna do a hard pass on that one. I'm gonna do a hard pass on that one.
Sounds good. Let's go with Don Garber.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, and then we will finish up with Antoine Griezmann.
Antoine Griezmann. I'm gonna go with potential.
Potential. Well, I
Okay.
know that you have been putting out some Griezmann to LAFC videos for a little while now, about 3 months. So this is a rumor that's been heavily touted. Per Marca, a bunch of media in Europe has already reported on it. So what's your take on this? I mean, people are saying that it could happen as soon as the summer window, and certainly Atleti is positioning themselves for his departure, with the arrival of Julian Alvarez. And yeah, so what do you think? Do you think it's likely to happen in the next couple of months?
So based on what I heard, it was a done deal this summer. Like he was planning to come over here, join Giroud and Lloris and come to LAFC because that's where he's wanted to be and join his best friend in Carlos Vela. But they had the agreement agreed to. They wanted the league to help them pay his salary, kind of like they're doing for Messi. A lot of the teams in the league is paying Messi's salary. The league rejected this. They said, we're not going to pay for Griezmann's salary. If you want him, you're going to have to pay for him yourself. And the deal that they agreed to were somewhere around like 20 million a year. And they just didn't want to shell that out this summer. They didn't want to be the ones to only pay that. So it kind of, I won't say nixed the deal, but kind of delayed it, right? They're going to retry to do something this winter. And I feel really good about it happening. It's almost destiny at this point. It's not a matter of if, but when he comes. And I believe that there's a good chance that he does come this winter, just because, like you said, they've got a couple guys that will replace him. So when he leaves, they're not going to be, shorthanded or fall off. And I think he will definitely come here either the winter or the summer, but I do think there's a good chance he could come here this winter.
Ananda, I know you're a big Grizzly fan, man. So what do you got for Will on this one?
Well, no, I was just gonna ask Will. It's kind of links up to the conversation we just had just a second ago, Will. But it looks like they're trying to assemble their own sort of French connection of stars, Lloris, Giroud. But I don't know, and again, you could correct me on this, but I don't think they've been really huge successes this year for LAFC. I don't think they've been the engines necessarily. It's been the other guys, Bogusz, Bowanga, etc. Even guys like Eddie Atuesta and Kike Oliveira as well.
I'm gonna push back on Lloris though, because I mean he did set the record for shutout minutes or like shutout games in a row. So he's arguably he's been a success, but Giroud, we all know that he has not.
Yeah, but I think it's just interesting that the point on this is, I think it's interesting now that you're kind of seeing, and maybe that I'm just kind of I have my tunnel vision on, but like the paradigm shift between both teams, where I feel like LAFC is starting to go the other way where we used to with the old sort of Galacticos model and the stars, whereas we're going completely the opposite way. So I think that's just interesting. I mean, what do you think of just Griezmann's fit and then just the overall makeup of what Thornton is trying to do with LAFC? Do you think this is the right move for them, or do you think they should go kind of like what we're doing with like sort of the younger stars? They've had some success with, Latin American stars, etc. You have your Oliveras, your Eddie Atuestas, players like that, for example. Even Luis O'Brien, to a certain extent.
Matty Bogusz was a second division player.
Yeah.
And they unearthed him. So,
well, I think that Griezmann's kind of a rare case, right? I don't think they would just be bringing him to sell kits. I think he's still a very good player. I think arguably, I think he had his best season of his career last year with Atletico Madrid. I think he was great last year. Probably top 15, top 20 player in the world. So getting someone like that in the league is huge. But that's one of the things that kind of makes the Giroud signing a little awkward. They really wanted to get Griezmann because they play very well together, especially with the French national team. So they were hoping that someone like that could really unlock him and, make it more fluid and they would play a little better. But obviously, like you said, he hasn't been good. He hasn't really scored. I think he scored 1 goal in maybe 10 or 11 appearances. So it's been kind of a disaster so far. I wouldn't call it a complete failure, though, because Denis Bouanga was very inconsistent his first season with the LAFC halfway through. that's why I don't know if we'll talk about this tonight, but that's why I'm in favor of changing the calendar, because these players would be coming in at the beginning of the season rather than halfway through the season and trying to just be plugged in with guys who have already built chemistry, and it's just kind of awkward and it doesn't really fit all the time. But I don't think Griezmann is the typical Galaxy-esque signing where they're just trying to sell those kits. I think it'd be more like the Robbie Keane signing, like where it is quality, but he is a name. Like he is someone that you're going to know, but it's also, I think his performance on the pitch will be bigger than just who he is or what, people buying his jersey. But LAFC has done a really good job of churning players out, replacing them, getting, selling guys, bringing good guys in. I tell my friend Nick, I guest star on his The Voices of Black and Gold and LAFC podcast. Kike Oliveira they are so deep on that team. Kike Oliveira comes off the bench. He would be the starter on almost any other MLS team and probably be their best player on almost any other MLS team. Now, minus your team, because I think Gabriel Peck clears Kike Oliveira, right? But for most teams, he would be their best player. If he's on San Jose, if he's on the Red Bulls, if he's on New York City FC, he would be their best player. So that just shows how deep of a team they are. I think Will Kuntz is kind of replicating what LAFC does, but he's putting his own spin on it because he worked at the league office for several years. So he's what you'd call like an MLS genius. So I think he's doing like his own spin on it, not an exact model of what John Thornton's done at LAFC. So I am curious how it's going to play out, right? Because it could be a disaster. Giroud has, I think, 2 years left on his deal after the season. He's already going to be
40.
Yeah, he will be 40 at the end of his contract. So, and I think he's making somewhere in the range of like $5 to $6 million. So they're on the hook for $12 million after this year. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but I do think that it's a little bit different, right? I think Griezmann, a lot of teams would still want him. So I don't think it's like the typical just sign him because of name recognition. I think they're signing him because of the quality he'd bring on the pitch.
Oh, Ananda would agree with you for sure. If this actually does come to pass, my mate is going to be pretty sad. He's been advocating the Galaxy to go out and get Grizzly for a little while. But let's switch focus to the playoffs themselves. Earlier, we brought up Cucho, and you said forgetful, right? It's been so long because the layoff has been so long, and it was forever ago. But one of the first big giant to fall in the East was Columbus. They got knocked out first, right? So for anybody that doesn't remember, because it was so long ago, Columbus lost to the New York Red Bulls in 3 games. The champions were knocked out. What's it called? MLS.com today was lamenting their demise, consistently calling them the best MLS team ever assembled. For better or worse, they stuck to their guns. Wilfred Nancy loves his position-based style, and were beaten by a more pragmatic New York team. Will, what do you think happened here? What went wrong for the Crew? Did they run out of gas? Were they just too naive to sticking to their ideals? Was it just, hey, this is playoff soccer? We need to play a different way to get the result. What do you think?
I think it was a combination of 2 things. The first thing I think, which is detrimental to most MLS teams, is the depth. Because of the roster limitations, they don't have a lot of depth, and they played more games than anyone else in Major League Soccer, any other MLS team. This is a team that made it to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, lost to Pachuca. I think it was 3-0. So they obviously had to do that scheduling. They also went to the Leagues Cup final, and they won that against LAFC. So this is a team that's played a lot of games this year, and they already played a lot of games
as well, right?
What was it?
Champions Cup final as well?
Yeah, the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Yeah. Yep. They played Pachuca. And so they just played so many games this year. They probably played, I want to say like 45, 46 matches, a lot more than the average MLS team plays. And they also played a lot of games last year because they won MLS Cup. So they've just played a lot of games. And then on top of that, I don't necessarily think they took the Red Bulls seriously. This is a team they played on decision day. They won 3-2. They were up 2-0, and then the Red Bulls came back. So I think it's kind of a bad matchup for the Crew. They got caught sleepwalking. I think they were fatigued, and that's what ultimately was their undoing. That's why they lost, and they're going to have to regroup and figure things out. But let's see, this is the reason why teams need to be able to spend more to build that depth. So when you play 46 games, which is common in Europe, right? All these big leagues and big teams are playing all these type of games. They need to be able to be better equipped for that. So these guys aren't playing 46 matches, 50 games a year and just being absolutely drained.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because they play the 34 here and then the Leagues Cup, and then for the teams that play the U.S. Open Cup, a couple more. But yeah, I was marinating on that the other day, that in Europe they're playing like 50, 60 games potentially if you're playing in the European competitions. So it's got to be a matter purely of depth, but with the existing limitations as they are, what do you think Columbus needs to do or is going to do? Do you think they're going to go after a big retool, or maybe one or two pieces only, as Matthew Doyle from MLS.com suggests?
I don't really see any holes in their team. They added a couple pieces. They added the Portuguese fullback, and they obviously traded for Day One Jones. I think they really did balance out their weaknesses. I just think it was just a bad luck, or like I said, just them being fatigued. But they're going to get an early rest this year, right? They're going to have 3 months off, and now they are going to play in Champions League again next year because they won Leagues Cup. Hopefully some rule changes happen this winter to where they can maybe sign a couple pieces and add some more depth. And I'm sure that you guys hope that for the Galaxy too, because I think the Galaxy are going to be in the Champions League. I'm pretty sure they qualified for the Champions League already.
Right.
They have a great starting 11. All three of us can agree with that. But if one of those guys get hurt, or those guys need a break because they got to play a regular season game 3 days before, they're in trouble, right? They just don't have 11 quality guys or 8 quality guys that could be subbed out and play, to give their starters rest. Yeah. So I think that's honestly what really needs to happen, is they need to give these teams a little bit more leeway or the ability to build better depth. Give these guys a break, man, but not drop the quality off completely.
Well, it might be that one of the league's biggest stars is leaving, and he might be discontented because of the existing rules in MLS. But we touched on Lucho Acosta a little bit earlier. He came out after Cincinnati's elimination and said, "This is probably my last game here," dropping the stunner on FC Cincinnati fans. So this is another big one because they were another one of the favorites in the East, and they were knocked out by the other New York team, NYCFC, also in 3 games. And like I said, the aftermath of that elimination is not only having aspirations of going to MLS Cup and getting knocked out in the first round, but then your talisman Lucho Acosta making plain his intention to leave. Acosta has a contract till 2026. Of course, he's been in the press saying that he wants to leave. He said it after the game, but just today in Argentina press, and yesterday he said, "Hey, I want to be Argentina. I want to be at Boca Juniors." He went for the emotional plea. Even he said that his son asks him every day to return to Argentina and play for Boca. And this is, of course, after making himself not available for media availability for FC Cincinnati. It's interesting. He's on his way to get U.S. citizenship. He's, according to Tom Bogert, he around March is when he would get it if he is actually going to stay. So, do you see Lucho Acosta with Cincinnati to start 2025, and does that throw a wrench into their pursuit of Kevin Denke, who they were trying to sign from Europe and Belgium? Can they afford to lose Acosta and then bring in Denke and then be forced to sign a Cam?
Yeah, I would be absolutely shocked if he returned next season based on what I've heard. I don't want to speculate or throw out rumors, but it doesn't sound good from what I've heard, and I'd be absolutely shocked if he came back to not just Cincinnati, but any team in Major League Soccer. I think he's destined to go back to Argentina. His heart's there, like you said. He had the interview saying he want to go back to his childhood club in Boca Juniors, play for them. So it is going to be a tough pill to swallow for them because he's probably been their best player in history. He's the MVP, helped to win their supporter shield last season. Now Genki, I think they're going to get him, but there's potentially a club in Europe that's also trying to compete for his signing. Yeah, I mean he's good. I mean, I knew that was going to happen. He's 23 years old. He scored 28 goals in the Belgian league last year, so he's obviously going to be a very hot commodity. It is going to be hard. I actually asked the guy earlier, a Cincinnati guy. I said, "Do you think they're going to be able to shell out 15 million for the striker, and then if Lucho leaves, throw another 10 million, 12 million
Exactly.
out for number 10?" And he said he didn't know. I would honestly think if they sign the striker that they'll probably sign him, wait until the summertime, and then see what's going on and maybe figure things out at that time. But it would be hard to believe that they would sign two guys at that price tag in the winter. I think they would probably wait it out.
Yeah, it's going to be a gut check for MLS to lose a talent like Lucho Acosta, and then also for his U.S. men's national team prospects if he actually does leave. But such is life, I guess. I mean, it could be that everybody on this side is like, oh, he's going to lose that chance, and he's like not concerned about it at all, right? So, but let's talk about the big one. We talked about two giants that have already fallen. Everybody already knows the third giant, and then the third coach of the year candidate that got knocked out. Inter Miami, of course, everybody saw it. One of the biggest sports stories and soccer stories in the world when it happened. Inter Miami gets eliminated 3-2 by the Cinderella team, Atlanta United. We spoke about Guzan and his heroics, and really just their run to get to this point has been incredible. Will, is this the biggest upset in MLS history?
Yeah, it is. I don't even think it's close. I mean, we're talking about the preseason MLS Cup favorite. We're talking about the Supporter Shield winners, the record, the most points in the season. Even with Messi, Suarez, Diego Gomez, all these key players missing time in the summer for Copa America, they were still able to keep things moving on and finish and break the record. So it's been very disappointing. It was an embarrassing showing for them in the playoffs. We're talking about them losing to an Atlanta United team, guys, who essentially packed it in at the summer. They sold Thiago Almada. They sold Giorgio Chakamakis. They sold Caleb Wiley. All the talent they had of value, they're like, okay, we're ready to do business. We're just going to go ahead and start building for 2025. We fired Gonzalo Pineda. We're going to let Rob Valentino coach the rest of this year. They weren't even, it felt like they were just kind of on cruise control, just like, hey, we just need to get through this year. I mean, they bought Miranchuk, the Russian international, who's very good, but they had all their sights for next year. They had no intentions of really making a run this year. And Miami, the league's golden child, they wanted them to be. They put them on this pedestal, right? They lost to a team and got embarrassed by a team, like I just said, who was essentially packing it in for next year. I mean, it is embarrassing. They didn't lose to a good team. Now, Guzan, like I said, he played heroic ball. He was a warrior out there. And that was to Miami's detriment, and they have an egg on their face, and they were embarrassed.
So just to follow up on that, and I think I know where you're going with this, Will, but so because it's interesting because I've heard the discourse since that elimination around this idea of was this season a failure, right, for Inter Miami. I think on the pitch, it sounds like there's no question that it probably was. But it's interesting, though, and I don't know. I mean, Rob, I even heard you before the season sort of, say something about this, which was we didn't actually, they were a top 4 team in the East, but it wasn't very convincing that they were going to finish top of the league. It's win the Supporter Shield with records, points tallies, etc. So the fact that they did that, they may have overperformed to a lot of people's expectations. So I thought that was sort of an interesting angle, but just in general, I mean, I'm going to sort of dovetail into another conversation too, but what do you think? Well, just complete failure for Inter Miami in all facets?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you guys talk about your five stars, right? You don't care about supporter shields like that. Nobody really I mean, now teams that don't win the cup celebrate that, but that's what you guys are playing for. You're playing for an MLS Cup. That was the goal this year. That's the championship of the league. The owner spent a lot of money on several different players, and Messi's here. He's only going to be here guaranteed for another season. And so a year and a half essentially wasted, no trophies outside of League's Cup. I mean, supporter shield, I guess you could say is a trophy, but I mean, what does that really matter outside of a Champions League spot? So yeah, I think it's been a failure, and I think it is a huge disappointment. And I said this in an episode recently. I interviewed a guy from Battered Herons, Daniel. I think Tata Martino should be fired. And the reason I say that is because Messi has one more year. He had a great regular season, but when it came to the most important part of the season, he proved he wasn't good enough to get the job done. Now, and look, we could forgive him if he lost in the next round, a single elimination, bad game, but he had 3 games to rectify his mistakes, and he still lost, like I said, to a team who essentially conceded and said, we're going to wait until next year to really go for it. I mean, it's inexcusable. It's about the quality of the opponent they lost to. I think he has to be fired for that. Any other league, you say you're an Arsenal fan. It's hard to really compare this because of the playoffs. It's way different. But
Yeah.
having something like that happen, if Arteta finished outside the top 4, 2 seasons, he would probably be fired, right? If he wasn't qualifying for the Champions League. It's really hard to compare it, but this is the most embarrassing thing you could possibly happen is getting bounced in the first round when you had all these expectations. And I just don't think he's the guy for the job. He's always failed with Messi. He couldn't win at Barca. He couldn't win with the Argentine national team, and he can't win with him in Major League Soccer either.
Well, you mentioned that Messi played poorly over 3 matches. Call it 4. Shock result today in South American qualifying. Paraguay beating Argentina 2-1. One of the rare. I think it might be the first time Paraguay beats Argentina in World Cup qualifying. Somebody fact check me on that one, but this was huge. So and he was very non-existent in that game as well. Let's go ahead and touch on something that was kind of like a hot button issue. A lot of people had an opinion on it, but there's a Club World Cup happening on the shores in a couple of years, or I believe next year, right? Yeah, next year. And there are a couple of MLS clubs playing in this tournament, among them Seattle. Another one of them is Inter Miami, who was awarded the berth after winning the Supporter Shield. I've made my feelings plain on this one, pretty plain on this pod. Will, how do you feel about FIFA essentially awarding Inter Miami this Club World Cup berth?
Not surprised. I mean, they want Messi to be in this tournament so they can get as many eyes and viewership as they possibly can. I mean, Messi is the biggest probably athlete in the world, and they want to try to attract as many people as they can. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the viewership rights is on Apple. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think it is. Maybe you have to check me on that. But yeah, I think that was probably guaranteed, and they made up the excuse that it was an international tournament. Winning Leagues Cup is the reason they qualified. I mean, I'm not surprised. I think maybe it should have been the MLS Cup winner this year. Should have probably been the person who represented MLS. But I mean, look, the Club World Cup is kind of a weird thing anyways. Like, they're doing Champions League winners from like 2-3 years back. So right. the circumstances are already super weird. Like, the Sounders are playing in it. Sounders haven't been good. Like, I mean, they're in the playoffs, but they haven't been really that good in several years, and they're in it too. So the whole thing's kind of wonky and doesn't really make sense. So it's just, they're just trying to, drop viewership and get people to tune in.
Yeah. So Will, I was just telling Rob, like, just a thought popped into my head, and I kind of have an audible question for you. And this is kind of related to, well, I saw a tweet or a take that you had on Twitter, and it started getting me thinking a little bit. But do you think, and I've seen, and I think I agree on this side, which is, it looks like, well, Miami's elimination just shows the competitiveness of this league, right? So do you think that in a weird way that this elimination is good for the league, sort of in the short, medium to long term? Or do you think that, no, this league to get the attraction of this league, you still need that star power. You need Messi to go all the way through to the finals and win something to sort of capture that viewership. So I think it's an interesting one.
I think that it's kind of complicated because I think that if Miami lost to a very good team, then it would be fine, right? Everybody would be like, okay, they just lost to the better team. This team was more talented. But I don't think any of us would say that Atlanta United is a better team than Miami. Guzan just played her like crazy in goal. I think it's more of like, Major League Soccer is frustrating because it feels like they try to handicap or tie a team's hand behind their back and just let them fight it out instead of giving them all the tools that they can need to really battle out and be entertaining. They try to like limit how good a team can be. Now, I think it is detrimental to the league, obviously, because you're losing your star player and who, like I said, they put on this pedestal. They made the face of the league. They want everybody to tune in, even casual people. But I think it could be a blessing in disguise because if the viewership does go down, that's going to make MLS reflect and say, well, if people aren't going to tune in when Messi's not playing, what can we do to fix that? How can we get these people to want to watch these matches? And hopefully that will entice them to do like what I said earlier, give these teams a little more resources, let them spend, let them build better quality teams. I say this a lot on my show or when I do a live feed and I go on my tangents. Like I'll take LA Galaxy and LAFC, for example, right? Both of these teams have a ton of money. AEG is loaded, right? If there were no restrictions at all and you could let Will Kuntz in the kitchen and cook up a massive recipe, I think someone said ratatouille in the comment section earlier. If you could just let him go crazy, do we not think that he would probably build a top 30, top 35 team in the world? People want to come to LA. It's not Major League Soccer as quality that are preventing people from coming over here now. It's just them preventing them from coming over because of roster restrictions and limitations. The players, the people, they're all wanting to see it. It's not 10 years ago, Gabriel Peck of his quality or Joseph Paintsel would have never came to Major League Soccer. They wouldn't have even answered the call. But now players are like this are coming. Imagine if you guys could get 5, 6 other players at that quality at different positions, how much better that would make your team. Another Ricky Puig, something like that. It's not about they don't want to come now. It's about Major League Soccer's dated rules not allowing them to come.
Yeah, it's interesting.
No, it would be beautiful to live in a world where first you could clone Ricky Puig and put Ricky Puig on the field again for the Galaxy. But I agree with you because and this is what I brought up earlier. I said that I had a receipt from you. You were talking in a tweet about how perhaps Apple hasn't done the best job of promoting the league. And you wrote it, so I'm not going to have you read it. I'll read it for the folk out there. I'm disappointed in the lack of promotion from Apple when it comes to MLS. They haven't done much to help the league grow, promote it. The deal isn't aging well either, especially when you consider $250 million split amongst 30 teams. Only really 140, 150 million. As much as MLS has to cover its own production costs, it just feels like MLS is a tenant renting a room from Apple, nothing more, nothing less. I expected them to do something innovative to attract new fans and build interest in the league. Imagine if Messi hadn't come to MLS, this would be a huge disaster. I watch all the games because I cover the league, but many casual fans tell me they've lost interest due to lack of promotion. Even many MLS diehards don't tune in as they used to.
And on top of that, let me add to that too, and a paywall to boot, right, to create even more friction between fans. So I really love that take, Will.
Well, as well as, you go to MLS.com at the moment, and to read a story, you have to go through, not a paywall, but you have to definitely input information, give up data to do so. So do you, now that you've had a couple of moments or days to reflect on that, do you still agree? Do you think that, Apple has to do better to promote the league? And obviously, if they're doing better to promote the league, that means more funds trickle down to teams. Maybe more funds trickling down to teams means that mechanism gets released where they can sign more players.
So when the Apple deal was announced almost 2 years ago, right, I was very excited because I thought to myself, Apple is trying to get into the sports landscape. They are at that time had the highest market cap, the most wealthy company in the world. Like, this is a brand that you want behind you. This is somebody you would want in your corner. But the more you think about it and more details come out, right? 250 million sounds good on like the surface level. Like, man, that's a lot of money. MLS was only making 65 million in the previous deal with FS1 and ESPN. So you're talking about a deal that is almost quadrupling, right? But more details come out. They're having to pay their production costs. They're having to hire their crew. They really can't make any more money unless they get more subscriptions. Apple has a clause in the deal where they can pull out early if they don't hit a certain threshold. There's more teams now, right? There was I think there was 19 teams when they signed that $65 million deal. Now there's 30 teams. So you're dividing the pie a little bit more. It's aged so poorly. And on top of that, Apple's job is they're buying the rights to show your product. They should be the one promoting the league. MLS obviously should as well, but Apple isn't doing enough job of getting you interested in Charlotte and Kalina or Gabriel Peck and Puig and for the LA Galaxy. They're kind of just, like I said in the tweet, you're renting a room and you're a tenant in Apple's house. Nothing more, nothing less. They're not doing anything extra for you. They're not trying to help you out. You just kind of like your roommates. That's all you are. And I think that is hurting the league. ESPN did a poor job of promoting the league too. They really did. They didn't do a very good job of doing it. But I think if we were in an alternate universe and MLS had Messi and they were on ESPN, we all know they would be promoting it, and then it would probably get more viewership. If Messi hadn't have come to Major League Soccer, I had heard that the subscriptions were pretty bad, like really bad. When he signed, they doubled. So they were in a bad state. And it makes me wonder, what would they have done if he hadn't have come? How would you get this interest? What would you have done to get those double the number in subscriptions? And they need to be thinking about life outside of Messi. He only has 1 year left on his deal. He's not guaranteed to play in 2026. Now, if you ask me if I think he will, yes, I do think he will play in 2026 because he will probably play for Argentina. It's in the United States. I think he will play for Major League Soccer and or Miami in 2026.
Last Dance documentary incoming.
Yeah, exactly. But they need to expand above that. Like, that's why Griezmann in LA at LAFC would be nice, because it would give some fans I guess interest in watching an LAFC match, casuals, right? Or if the Galaxy are able to sign Robert Lewandowski, that would give them interest to want to watch a game. Maybe a casual fan who's just a big soccer fan. It's like they put all their eggs in the Miami basket, and they're essentially telling all the casuals, hey, only watch Inter Miami. That's all you need to watch. Just watch Messi. Nothing else matters. Just watch him. They're not doing enough job to like say, hey, you know that guy on the opposite side of the field, Gabriel Peck, he's really good. You know, the guy that Messi played. That they're not doing anything like that to really lift these other players and brands up.
Well, let's wrap here with Inter Miami and the first round of the playoffs by asking you, where does Inter Miami go from here? Like, what do they need to do? I mean, there's been rumors already that Neymar is the next big name to come in. They're sniffing around a big time forward from Boca Juniors, but what do they actually need? Like, what do you think they're going to do?
Well, I was told that Jorge Mas, he's a very ambitious owner, by the way, very involved owner. I know that Philip Anschutz kind of defers to Dan Beckerman, right? Kind of lets him run the show for AEG. Now, Jorge Mas is the complete opposite. He is very hands-on with his club. He wants to make sure that they're a winner and that he does whatever he can to get them to the next level. I know that he's been in the league's ear wanting them to loosen the purse strings, help them out so that way when they go to the Club World Cup, he can not only prove that Major League Soccer is a good league, but he wants to prove that Inter Miami is one of the best teams in the world. And he's going to have to spend more to do that, because the team obviously is not going to be able to beat any of the best teams in Europe with the way it's currently constructed. So I think there's going to be a massive overhaul at certain positions. I feel pretty good about some changes to the rules coming this winter. I know I've said that before and got burned because it feels like MLS is always delaying it, but I think it's inevitable at this point. I think they held off long enough, and it's going to happen. They're going to have a massive overhaul. They're going to get rid of a lot of people. I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of Busquets, because he's making $10 million a year, and I don't think you can pay as a defensive midfielder that kind of money in this league. You're better equipped to spend that elsewhere. So I think that they could ask him to take a pay cut, maybe open up another DP spot. Neymar, I'm not really feeling too confident about that. He did buy some land in Miami recently, but maybe he's trying to. I made a joke about him tanking his stock in Saudi Arabia so he can make the move a little easier.
Come cheap, right?
Yeah, cheap, right? Maybe he's taking.
Did he get bought out already from his contract, or like his Saudi team is looking into that, I believe?
I think they are, yeah, because they were talking about maybe replacing him with Ronaldo, getting him to come over. But I mean, he's getting injured. He's playing bad. He's kind of throwing a tantrum. It feels like the stars are aligning for them to get a hell of a deal on him. So I would be skeptical about that, but it's going to be an interesting offseason. I think there's going to be a lot of movement, and it's going to be a fun offseason, guys. It's going to be a very fun offseason for the league.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember in the previous offseason where we were hearing that there was potentially a fourth DP spot opening up. So I imagine with the pressure that the owners that are ambitious are giving the league, I wouldn't be surprised to see that fourth DP spot open up, especially like you said, Club World Cup coming in. Don Garber's going to want to prove what he's always saying, that the MLS is one of the top leagues in the world, and you got to spend money to do that. Last Inter Miami question, promise. Does their elimination mean that the title runs through one of the LA clubs?
Of course, yeah. I think the winner of the Western Conference will win the MLS Cup, and I think it will be an LA team. I think that, and I think this is a bold statement because all the El Tráfico games are instant classics, right? They're all entertaining. They're very fun. Even if one team isn't playing or isn't good in the regular season, these games kind of like bring the best out of, or you could say the worst out of each team, right? But I think that this will go down as probably the biggest match in their history just because of what is on the line. I think that's what's going to happen in the Western Conference. We're going to get El Tráfico. Going to be a crazy instant classic match, and the winner of that game will win MLS Cup. And I think it's going to be the Galaxy.
Again,
it is, Rob. From here first.
From your lips.
From your lips to the Lord ears.
I got a question for you guys, though.
Sure.
So what are your guys' thoughts on this calendar switch? Because obviously in LA, summers are hot. Zlatan Ibrahimovic talked about how dreadful it was to play in, June, July, August. What are your guys' thoughts on the calendar change going from August to May?
I don't know all the in and outs yet. I have heard that there are a lot more pros than cons. I know that the players themselves would be in favor of it, or the majority of them, anyway, when they were polled on it. So, I mean, I wish I could give you a better answer, but just on the face value of what I know, I'd be in favor of it to align with the rest of the world, and that also gives MLS a better chance in international competition.
Yeah, well, not only that, but I think it's the transfer windows as well. I think again, this is part of what you've been saying, Will, which is just to increase the popularity of the league. I mean, not just to get your Galacticos, but to get good players, good young South American players. That'll come sort of not only mid-season, but they're prime and ready. Look, I think MLS has always been a league that have tried to do things on their own. I think it's worked in some phases, and it's sort of succumbed to the American sort of culture that we have here, right, with salary caps and all the other major leagues and stuff. But I think at some point you've got to sort of conform to some of the norms that are already tried and tested over time, and I think just from that standpoint, I think that's a huge plus that outweighs a lot of the cons. One of them obviously being like, dreading playing in snowstorms in Colorado or against the Rapids in December, something like that, right, Rob? So, I mean, those are logistical things, but I think the pros outweigh the cons here for sure.
We do have a comment from GCam in chat. MLS current calendar is as American as apple pie, just like playoffs. Just my opinion, though. We've always been the outlier in world sports. I mean, I read an article today by Pablo Maurer where he was talking about how before MLS was officially awarded first division status, there was another league trying to start up, and it was a league where you had defenders like behind a certain line and stuff like that, like only 8 people on the pitch. It was really weird. I didn't finish reading the article, but it was basically like not soccer really as we know it. Of course, MLS won the bid to be first division, but everyone knows even MLS, they had the things that they tried at their outset, and namely one of my favorite is the shootouts. I mean, everybody loves the shootout unless you played through them and you were like, what is this? Pibe Valderrama was one of those that was like, ¿Qué es esto? Like, so, but yeah, man, I agree. I've told Ananda, whoever wins Western Conference final is going to win MLS Cup. But that's not just how any of these other teams. So speaking of these other teams, we do have these conference semifinals coming up. We're just going to ask you a quick who you think is going to win and why from these matches. So LAFC and Seattle, who do you got in that one?
LAFC, Brian Schmetzer has never beaten LAFC since Steve Cherundolo has been there. They've lost 9-1 in total in aggregate this year in 4 matches. I don't see the trend changing. I mean, if you haven't beat a guy in 3 years, you're probably you're cooked, man. You're in trouble. So I think LAFC will probably win that pretty handily.
Or other side of the quarter, damn, maybe homie is due, right? So like even the Generals beat the Harlem Globetrotters every once in a while. But very, very unlikely, like you said, it's been consistent. Just like LAFC had been consistent in beating Vancouver, and we're able to stick that one out. Yeah, most likely they'll go ahead and get that one. How about for Orlando versus Atlanta?
This is a tough one. I think both of these teams are kind of mid, honestly. Like I think Atlanta United just play out of their mind, like I said in the first round. Orlando City has a lot of deficiencies. Now, if Brad Guzan plays like he did against Miami, I think Atlanta will win. But is that going to continue? Is that the trend? If this game was a week later, maybe. But the fact they're taking 2.5 weeks off kind of kills the momentum, which is another thing that's kind of dumb. Yeah. I hate that they're doing that, by the way. The Galaxy are going to have 22 days off, 23 days off in between games.
23
days. Yep. It's ridiculous, right? Absolutely ridiculous. My gut's telling me probably Atlanta United.
Ooh. And then their Cinderella run continues. And that means that they will face up against one of the New York teams. Of course, we have the Hudson River Derby across the way there in the Eastern bracket. NYC FC versus New York Red Bulls.
This is another tough one. Now they're playing at Citi Field. If they were playing at Yankee Stadium, I would probably give New York City FC the advantage because that stadium is very, very narrow. It's a really weird place to play on the road. I don't think Citi Field's much better, but it is a little better. The Red Bulls just beat the second best team in the Eastern Conference, and I think with Emil Forsberg and Lewis Morgan, and they're a pretty well coached team with Sandro Schwartz as well. I would probably go Red Bulls. I think they're going to finally get one and be able to advance on New York City FC. But I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a very, very close, entertaining game.
And of course, you've already told us that you think the Galaxy are getting to the Western Conference Final, which means they take out Minnesota United. But I don't think you've told us what you think it is that puts the Galaxy over the top with Minnesota United.
Goals. When you beat a team, when you beat a team 9-1 in 2 matches, I mean that's a great trend. They've had the most convincing win of any team in the playoffs so far, and if they play like that in the rest of these matches, there is not a single team in the league that can beat them because their biggest weakness is, I think all three of us could agree, is their defense. If they're only conceding 1 goal in 2 games. It's a good trend and a good indicator that maybe they figured this thing out and they'll be able to win and maybe even lift that cup up again for the first time in a decade.
Yeah. I mean, we'll do the preview next week, Rob, but definitely I'm going to say that, again, I haven't scouted Minnesota because I think they've been a different team, honestly, coming down the stretch. They've been surprisingly a really, really solid defensive team. I think I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, they had 4 clean sheets in the last 5 coming down the stretch. So I think that'll be interesting, but definitely I think they're going to pose different and unique team. And I think that layoff is scaring me. Hopefully granted, Minnesota's had, I think, not too far off from us, Rob, maybe 21 or 22 days, something like that. We both had the same amount of days off, but right. I think it's going to be interesting. Look, the number one thing, it's at Disney Health Sports Park, and we've been absolutely amazing at home, right, Rob? You guys, everyone knows the record. So I think the crowd will get us that lift to shake off the rust a little bit.
Chat,
but we'll get
I know you guys are going to go crazy. Yeah. I know chat is going to go crazy at the digs for that Sunday the 24th match. Well, one thing that you brought up a little bit earlier is that there are similarities between this Miami team and this Galaxy team, and even one of the people that one of the guys that we looked up to in the Galaxy podcast sphere, Josh Guessman at Corner of the Galaxy, shout out Podfather. He was talking about on his Monday show about how similar these teams are. High-powered offenses, prone to the same defensive lapses. We have spoken about that. My counterpoint to all this is that the Galaxy's legs aren't as old as Miami's legs, and so I'm going to have faith that it's not an issue of they can't cover the defensive lapses. It's just that they have to stay mentally tough and focused to stay there. So
and we hope Dane Sinclair doesn't have a game like Guzan's been having like these last 3, because he's another really good keeper, man. That I don't know if you guys saw that shootout, but he's a damn good keeper as well.
Yeah, well, he's been on a roll, but like Will said, this layoff has killed whatever momentum or whatever good feeling or whatever hype any team has picked up, because it's just been too long. 23 days has been massive for the Galaxy, so massive in fact that they have days off in training. I mean, chat let us know earlier that they were speaking to Dejan Jovic and on his stream,
Counter-Strike stream. That's crazy, man.
No, he said no training tomorrow. And it's, again, the layoff is too long, but we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Please, one more time for the folks that might have just pulled up in chat or that just pulled up a couple moments ago, please let them know where they can find you, and then maybe what they can expect to see from your socials.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter/X at MLSMoves. It's my title name right there. You can see it. You can follow me on Instagram at MLSMoves. And lastly, you can subscribe to me at MLSMoves. I'm trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by MLS Cup final day.
Get it,
I'm
guys.
like 450 away. I think we can do it. It would definitely be a lot easier if they didn't kill our momentum, right? This 3-week break, you gotta ride the momentum. You can't like stop it and halt it, man. They should have just kept things rolling. But it is what it is. We prevail. We'll continue on. So you guys can follow me there. I'm going to have some previews for teams, matchups, MLS Cup predictions, live watch-alongs, anything MLS related. I got it. I got you covered.
Chat, you heard him. Go ahead and check out Will at MLSMoves, and he's pretty much everywhere on the socials, man. So like if there's a take that you're interested in, again, Will knows ball. He's probably got a take on it, and he probably can inform you on it as well. So go ahead and check him out. Baba, thank you so much for dropping by. We appreciate you. Just very last minute being like, yeah, man, I can do that. And I know that you're Tennessee based as well, so I know it's late where you are, man. So thank you so much for hanging with us and talking MLS.
Yeah, I've had a blast. So it's good. It's good linking up with you guys, and it's always fun to talk ball and help promote the league. And you guys were good company tonight, and can't wait to link back up with you and see what happens with your guys' team.
Well, we're expecting you at MLS Cup on December 7th at the Digs.
I don't know if I'm going to make that trip. I'll probably just stay at my house and do a live watch along, but I do plan on coming out to LA sometime soon and catching a game and maybe in an El Tráfico match, because I gotta see what it's all about.
It is lovely. It is a wonderful it is a wonderful atmosphere when everybody remembers that soccer is a sport that should be loved and cherished by all, and no one gets dumb. But yeah, we would love to have you. We would love to host you and show you what's up with those LA tacos, man.
Yeah, for sure. No, I just wanted to thank Will again for coming on. Thank you, chat, as always, for hanging out with us. A little bit different tonight, more MLS talk, and kind of getting out of our cocoons of LA Galaxy fans. But as I said, know your enemy. It's really important to sort of promote the league and know the rest of the league and know what we're up against, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed this one, and of course we'll be back with you on Monday. Where we will have LA Galaxy defender Jalen Neal on to talk to us about all the great things he's doing in the community, and of course how he's preparing for the next game against Minnesota. Of course, that's next Sunday. So yeah, Rob, sign us off, man.
Yeah, guys, you heard it. You heard Ananda. You heard Will. Thank you so much for being here with us. We do appreciate it. It was more of an overall MLS conversation than a Galaxy-centric conversation. and I had a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I learned a lot
something
for sure.
something off the beaten path for us, and yeah, it was great. Thank you again to our special guest Will for coming on. Check him out at MLSMoves. Coming up, the LA Galaxy have another 10 days off. They'll face off against Minnesota United in the Western Conference semifinal on Sunday, November 24th at 3 p.m. Of course, we will bring you a preview for that match on Thursday, November 21st. And like Ananda just said, catch us on Monday night at 9 p.m. where we'll have LA Galaxy defender Jalen Neal on to go ahead and talk to us about what he's doing in the community and why it's important. So, guys, until we catch you again, thank you so much for being with us. Chat, as always, you're damn beautiful. We love you for being in here. Go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe. We would love you forever if you did it. And go ahead and check out at MLS Moves and do the same. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Get that man to his goal. Go ahead before MLS Cup. Is that the stated goal, Will, before MLS Cup?
Yeah, well, at least by the day, right? We can make a big event out of it. Celebrate the MLS Cup final and the 5K subscribers.
Hey, vamos. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much. Let's get Will to 5K. Let's get the Galaxy to the number 6th MLS Cup, and we will catch you guys on Monday with Jalen Neal. Until next time, one thing left to say. G's up. Do yo.